I'm Ladybird. I am a drag artist from Meanjin, Brisbane. Out of Drag Me is pretty much the same, but in Drag Me is just like me on steroids pretty much, just the campy, over the top version, just making an absolute fool of myself is just what I love to do. I just love anything silly and kitsch, and just something about that is just like I just am so attracted to that. I've always loved like going to op shops and finding little antiques, and I draw a lot of inspiration from that and from like clowns and just silly things. I think life shouldn't be taken so seriously, so may as well make a fool of myself. Probably won't see me doing like the top 40 hits. Like I love to find random mixes and old songs and just doing things that are like so cursed to listen to, but just make the audience laugh, and it's something unexpected and something that people are going to remember and that they're going to enjoy. I might be crawling on the floor, might be playing the recorder really terribly. Like all you need to know is that it's just going to be a fun time and you're in for a laugh. I've always loved performing. I've been a musician since I was literally like 4 or 5, playing piano, and then moved into orchestras and bands and performances and musical theatre. And I was always like really loving like makeup, and I loved to play around with different like SFX makeup when I was little. So I would like sneak into my mum's room and steal her makeup without her knowing, and I'd be like, oh, no one can know that I'm playing with the makeup. Eventually I started watching Drag Race with my mum, and I saw it and I was like, that's cool. So me and my friend actually started drag makeup through lockdown on on Zoom pretty much. We would just like call every few weeks and we'd try out different makeup, and it was definitely a big learning experience, but I got there in the end. And about a year and a half into it, I started to explore drag near me and what was surrounding me, and it was just like so eye-opening, and I just was like so drawn to it in a way that I've like never felt drawn to anything before. It kind of just like scooped in together all my favorite things of everything, like crafting things, sewing, makeup, hair, like just everything, and performing. And I just was like, it just feels so correct. So then I went for my first performance, and it was my first drag show I ever went to and watched as well. So it was just like, oh my gosh, it was like the whole world opened up for me. And ever since then, I just haven't looked back. Yeah, well, the first performance was the first night I performed. So it was a work it at the Wickham, and I had just caught the train up from the Gold Coast and was just in full drag on the train, just like. And then I walked in and there was like pride flags and disco balls, and me like just having just been to school and uni in my life, I was like, whoa, what is this? And a few drag queens walked past me and I was just like, what? I was so like just starstruck by these queens. Even though it was like an amateur drag night, to see all these people just put their stuff out there and just have such a good night. And the first performance I ever watched was On Your Bike doing C'est La Vie. And I was just like, this is my drag, this is camp. She just went around to everyone in the audience and was just like, just harassing people, but in like the funniest way. And it was just like, oh, it was so fun to watch. Did that first work it night, and then about a month later I did a second work it for Halloween, and people started to like take notice, and I grew lots of connections with people and was able to like connect and learn from what I'd seen online from the people I'd just met as well. And then I messaged Sporties and got my first gig at Sporties, which is where I did my Kermit number. And then that sort of just opened up the world of opportunities, and I got heaps more gigs through Sporties. That's how BB Gunn was introduced to me, through me posting my Kermit video performance. And she was just like, I'm fucking obsessed with you. And like we chatted for a few months, and like her and Lulu would like help me and like give me advice, and I'd ask them questions. So that was like really helpful. And then in the beginning of the year, they were like, BB was like, I would like to welcome you into the family. So I definitely like started on my own, but now like I was invited in, and now I have this like family of support and like of brilliant artists who I all like love and just like adore so much. So I feel like I've never had a community like this before, and it just, I feel constantly surrounded by so much love and support, and like not having that and then having that, I was like, wow, this feels like the moment. It feels where I'm meant to be, and Yeah, because I had never been surrounded by such like a queer space as well. So to finally like be able to witness that in real life and not just on the internet like I did through all my teenage years, it was like just so eye-opening. And yeah, it's just filled with so much love and support, and everyone's just looking out for each other and wants the best for each other. So the reason the Kermit number came about was because when I messaged Sporties, they're like, we don't really care what you do, just have fun. And then I was like, okay, I'm not just doing a SWAT number. I'm like sending it, I'm just putting all my eggs in this basket and just showing them and just having a fun time. And I was so scared it wasn't gonna land. I like would show my friends and they're like, this is so fucking ridiculous. But I was like, yes, that's what I'm going for. So it started with Rainbow Connection and then would go into a club remix of Rainbow Connection, because just as you do. And then it went into Kermit the Frog singing Never Gonna Give You Up. So I could rickroll the whole audience and just be absolutely silly. And I come out with like a little ukulele and just like play it, and it's all serene and no one expects like the change into like the silliness. The whole like outfit works so well with it because it's like a little bit crafty, it's got little ping pong eyeballs, it's got little felt spikes, it's just a dress from the op shop, but like it's just so much fun to perform. And I just, yeah, sometimes I like lie on the floor and pretend to stargaze. Like there's just lots of fun to be had with it. Drag audiences are definitely changing a lot, especially with Drag Race, I feel, because firstly, like the expectations are different of queens, the standards, the different drag that's being produced is somewhat commercialized in a way now because of it, but drag audiences are definitely becoming more accepting to different forms of drag and different people of different genders doing drag. It's not just about like, it has to be female impersonation. It can be like drag kings, drag queens, drag artists. It can be clowns. It can be just stupidity. It doesn't have to make sense. Like it can be anything. And I think people are starting to realize that. So they're starting to accept it more. Drag for queer spaces is very like special, but it's also like stressful because you know, like they know what's up. They're not just like looking at it and being like, oh, pretty drag queen. I think being able to feel so confident in this form and like having this on and just being like, oh, I feel so great, it really helps you like push forward and be like, oh yes, no, I am that bitch, like fuck off. Like, you know, you just become a lot more fearless. And I think in drag you kind of have to be, because I mean, people have been made fun of so much in the past and there's been such a history about like negative things towards drag queens. Day to day I find like I'm a lot more confident. I'm not as caring about like what other people think. And one of the quotes that people always say, and it's from RuPaul, and it's just the power you have in drag you can channel like anytime. And I feel like in a lot of situations I've channeled it, and it's not the same, but it's cool that you can still feel that outside of it. But it definitely helps when you're in all the geesh and you're just like when you're all pretty and dolled up. It's quite nice. I think people immediately just see drag queen before they see AFAB drag queen, but a lot of people can just like invalidate it a lot of the time. In the club, you're a celebrity, people want photos with you, they want to chat with you, they want to buy you drinks, and then as soon as you walk out, people are like almost like catcalling you, but like just calling you shitty things. Or most of the time it's not too bad, but there's always that occasional experience. And I like think that being AFAB in general always puts you at risk in those environments, like late at night, in town, like just lots of people around drunk. Like you're always scared in general. So to put drag on top of that is just like enhances it even more, because people always see, well, in my opinion, I think people see AFABs as like a target almost, and people need to always be careful. But like having drag on top of that is always just like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? Like, especially if I'm like walking to the train or walking late at night, it's kind of a bit scary. Yeah, I like didn't even realize that like there were AFAB queens even like in my local scene or out and about, because there was just no representation online about it. When I was like doing my first performance, even my mum was like, are you sure like this is gonna be okay? And I was like, I'm fine, it's fine, I'm just doing drag, no one needs to like think about it. And then finally going out on the scene and like having that experience with other AFAB queens, I was like, oh my gosh, there's others. Even like with Henny won a previous season of SmackDown, I think season 4 or 5, and there was like a little bit of uproar, pretty much. Like there was quite a bit of uproar after she won. So when I won, it was like quite like a wholesome experience for like, I think her being like having me be so accepted in the scene, and then for me being like, oh my gosh, like it's such a big deal, because I feel like you always question yourself, especially as an AFAB queen. Like it already puts you at a step back. Like people want like cis men drag queens at their like hens parties and stuff, but it's just not true. Like drag is drag, and it was very cute to have that moment with Henny backstage, us just like sobbing together, just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So yeah, it's nice to see like the change in perspective and acceptance levels over even just a few years. It's quite cool. The signature parts of the Ladybird mug are the eyes, for sure, and definitely like, I think just like the harshness of it, like the harsh cheek, the harsh lip. I think with the eyes, definitely like the fact that it's all like snatched up, and it comes down to the nose so that it's always pointy, it's always sharp. And then the little spikes on the outside are very Ladybird, because they only actually started on my first night because I couldn't find my lower lashes and had eyeliner and was like, guess these are my lower lashes. And then it kind of just stuck and became like the signature mug. But love lots of blush, love glitter, love just like having like lots of crisp lines and like sharpness to it all. Anyone can do drag, not everyone should do drag. Live your fantasy. Like people get in drag for a night for Halloween, you know, people put on drag on, I think drag is like in everyone's life in a way. Like it might be in a small minute way, it might not be full wig and everything, but like when you get dressed up, I'm like, that's drag. You know, you're putting yourself onto the next level almost. I think anyone has the capacity to do drag. It just depends on whether you have like the perseverance and the determination and the resilience to keep going with it. I don't think everyone's built for drag. It's a lot. It's very demanding. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, but I think drag should be for everyone, and that everyone should be able to openly accept it and experience it, because there's something so magical about it.